Change the distance from your bridge hand to the cue ball. Make it shorter and you will make less mistakes and increase your shot accuracy. That's the advice I got in a very tough phase. So in this video, we're gonna have a closer look at this advice, and I'm also gonna tell you in the end what my decision was and what all of this got to do with a toilet paper roll. Overall, you can say that this kind of advice is alright, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Have you ever gotten advices from friends, colleagues, other players, coaches, and you had no idea what to do with that? It's really important that you listen to somebody who knows you and your game and your stroke and your technique.
So one important note on the side, let's say you're missing balls. Now the question is, what is the cause? Is it the length of the bridge hand, or is it actually your stroke and cue delivery? When you get an advice, it's like shorten your bridge hand and then you will make less mistakes. You might just work on the symptom, but not so much on the cause. So just keep that in mind.
And why is this such a careful topic? Now, let's talk about this advice, shortening the bridge hand length. So if you're playing like this and somebody tells you to shorten it and you go here, all of a sudden I can tell right away that I have to change the way I grab my cue here. If you change one little detail in a system, it will affect other areas as well. So as soon as I shorten this bridge hand, I have to adjust somewhere here. That's the problem with advices. Very often they just look at one little detail, but they forget the whole picture. Okay, I'm gonna take the head off now. I'm kind of having a bad hair day, I'm sorry, so that's why where's my glove? Oh, there it is. My new glove. So whenever somebody tells you, do this and this will help your game, question it. Ask questions back. It's like, what do you mean? How? What am I supposed to do? How is it going to affect other areas? Work with somebody who really can help you and also tell you why and how to do it. So now let's have a look at this advice for me. So I've been playing since the age of 6. So when I started playing, of course, my height was different than today and my angles were different. And as almost all the kids, we start with long bridge hands. Why? Because of the height, right? Because we cannot reach all the balls and therefore kids usually have a long bridge hand. Yes, you should change and adapt that over time and get to like a good average. There is a certain area, a certain average when you look at the pros, and then you have extreme versions. I have a long backstroke or longer backstroke than other players and a longer follow through than some other players. Now I'm used to that kind of stroke, so now changing the bridge hand extremely, and the advice was actually to really shorten it quite a bit, almost half. It would have totally changed my cue delivery, my stroke, my technique. Like if you have a short bridge, right, there is only a certain amount of backstroke possible, right? I cannot have a longer backstroke now than this because of the bridge hand. Therefore, it creates a shorter backstroke, and now it is hard to have a longer follow through. It was so hard for me, and I tried it, to create a smooth cue delivery through the cue ball with that kind of bridge hand. And then having the same follow through than before felt totally unnatural to me. It was like I had to kind of force the cue through the cue ball. Yes, maybe because of the short bridge hand, there is less room for the cue to pivot to any side, right? Therefore, it might create a bit more accuracy on the cue ball. An advice like that can help maybe with the accuracy a little bit, but creates problems in another area. It would have cost me so much energy and time to change that and then to adapt my stroke and my technique. I did change my bridge hand over time a little bit, so I got a little bit shorter, and also my follow through is not always as extreme because I just don't need it. Also, when it comes to a long backstroke and a long follow through is something that you need for specific shots, but I don't always play it like that because sometimes I just don't need it. So I think a good stroke, a good technique should always be adaptable anyway.
You have to understand that the length of the bridge hand is not always the same. It depends on the kind of shot. In this case, the balls were close together. I need a short shot and stroke. Therefore, I go closer. In this case, it's a tough pot. I need more accuracy, so players tend to go much closer with the bridge hand. In this case, I need more quality, a good follow through, more feeling, a good draw shot. So I go longer. In this case, the 7 ball is in the way, so there is no chance for me to have a shorter bridge hand. But there are also shots, for example this draw shot, where I cannot follow through all the way because look what happens. I actually touched the cue ball twice, so I have to go shorter with my follow through. So you see, you have many different versions and variations, so every stroke and technique needs to be adjustable. It's not always the same, please keep that in mind.
So we've been talking about bridge hand length, and now the question is, but what is the average that I talked about, right? I always tell my students to start, if they have no clue where to start, if everything feels unnatural to them, I always tell them to start with about 20 centimeters. I think that's about 7.8 inches. I think that's a good way to start, and then from there you can see if you need it a bit longer or a bit shorter. So now the question is, what are 20 centimeters? And the toilet paper roll actually is almost 10 centimeters wide.
Now as an explanation, you put down the toilet paper roll. Now the question is where to actually place your hand. You can have two variations, either go 20 centimeters from your tip of your fingers or from your thumb, like where your cue actually is on the bridge hand. So try it both and see what feels better.
What you can also use are 4 balls, also works. You can use, if you have the Predator extension, that's the middle one, that's also pretty much 20 centimeters, so you can use that one as well. Billiard balls box is a bit longer, so that won't work. And what you can always do is mark the table with a chalk and then make sure your bridge hand is pretty much consistent. That's it. So always question advices that you get. Be careful, and I talk to you soon.